Hello, hello. Welcome back to Get Inspection Ready podcast. My name is Vanessa Dooley. I am the founder of Jigsaw Early Years Consultancy. And today I have a very special guest. I won't introduce you, but I just want to give a little bit of background. Because this is something that, if you're listening to this, you probably think that I'm quite an extrovert, probably because I do podcasts and I stand on stage and I do TikTok videos and do all of that malarkey. But that's not who I am. That's just the picture that you see. So for me, um, I would say I'm more of an introvert, extrovert. So this is where I've had probably around a year now working on myself, which is something I never thought I would do. So I'm really delighted to be joined by Carol-Ann. So Carol-Ann, just explain who you are, really, who you are, what you do, um, and maybe how we first got connected, maybe just something, if you remember that far back.
I do, yes. I'm Carol-Ann Reid, and it's one of those where I always say, on paper, I'm a qualified life and mindset coach and really sort of specializing in the subconscious. So NLP, master NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. And then I kind of almost caveat that with, but it's almost hard to put into words the actual outcome of that work.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what the label is. That's kind of what I'm qualified in. But I really, the kind of the work that I do is I help people to, I'm going to use the word awaken because it's always within us, awaken their their truest self, their authenticity, their potential, their confidence, their self-belief, that real self-trust that so often just gets knocked out of us throughout the course of whether it's childhood experiences, going into adolescence, going into adulthood. And then all of a sudden we find ourselves as adults like, and quite often we're masking and we feel like we have to be a certain someone. And I really adore supporting people to come back to their truest selves through that subconscious work and kind of over the years. So I've been in the industry for 10 years now, but what really kind of kick-started this was the loss of a loved one to suicide. And I just thought that everyone has severe crippling anxiety, but we just smile and crack on. I used to work on as a singer, so I would just paint the red lipstick on. And that meant that I get to kind of put the anxious thoughts and all of that self-sabotage to one side and perform. And then that opened up my eyes to so many people go through life performing and it's exhausting. And so that kind of took me down that route. And then it was probably around the time we met, which I was working out the other day. I think was at an event
Yeah.
and you spoke on stage. I spoke on stage. I don't know if it was all that memorable back then, but
I remember meeting
go
you
on.
when I got on stage.
Yeah, and we were at the event because it wasn't long after that that I fell pregnant with the twins. And it was probably around then that I really started to understand and go on quite a spiritual journey myself that I kept hidden. I was very much in the closet. I was like, I'm a mindset coach. And then it's kind of weaved in a lot into the work that I do. They almost just go hand in hand, I believe now. So that's kind of as nutshelly as I could get.
So this weekend, so the reason we're doing this podcast is because I've just come away from a weekend where the Saturday, so it was a long way. It took me, a number of hours to get there. Huge decision for me to actually do it, which makes me laugh because everyone would think that I'm just, oh, Vanessa, just get on the train, just do it. That's not the way Vanessa goes. I like a little bit of a bubble around me, if that's so to speak. But we talked about so I spent the day walking into a room where there were 12, were there 12? Yeah, 10 to 12 other women who I'd never met before, which was so fun. And I didn't know what I expected. So it was all about confidence, which is really ironic because you'll see me on on a video, or you'll see me. But I'm not talking to anybody when I do the videos. I think that's what it is, why I can do it. I'm actually just talking to myself, aren't I? When you do those videos, when you do a YouTube, when you do a TikTok, when you do an Instagram, you're just talking to yourself. You're not talking to anybody, right?
It's true. That is so true. There's no instant effect from that. Yes, you've got to hit send and you share it and all that, but actually there isn't that instant result, if you like, from it. There isn't an
Yeah.
impact from it.
Yeah. So for me to walk into a room full of 10, 12 women was huge, was just like, I think I probably said to you, I'm in the room now. Can I go back to my room? Can I go back to my
That-
can I go back to the hotel?
yeah, you did. And I think when we first actually saw each other with us working together for a long, knowing each other for a long time, it's the first time we actually got to see each other and have a hug. If you don't mind me sharing, there was
No,
instant
no.
tears.
We
It's like, was that relief? Was it overwhelm? Was it
It was all of the above. It was like I couldn't control my breathing. I can feel it now. I can feel this whole thing of going. And it's really weird because people will go, well, actually, when you have VPOP, you stand on stage. But what people don't know is I probably had some Prosecco before I get on that stage. And yeah, that's it. That's almost what I've got to do. But the reason that we got speaking was because there were so many things that I have experienced probably as a child and experience in the world that we are in at the moment that actually have caused triggers and also caused the way that I am. And I'm not that confident, which makes me laugh because I'm not. You go into that imposter syndrome where you go and you think, I'm who just, yeah. And that's why I love that song. That song. So there was a
the
song
song?
first song. So
Song.
the Imagine Dragons song, Thunder, where he says, when people say, who do you think you are? That is that bit that for me, that makes me go, that is me. That's what I think. So for me and I've had a number of coaches and I've had, are we just talking about this then? And they've all been had a masculine energy. And I thought that's what I needed. I thought I needed somebody to go, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this. And the whole point of this podcast is that in our inspections, we have to put on we have to, as a manager or in a room leader, we have to put this, um, we know what we're doing, that we're leading the team, but actually deep down, we might not be that. So so for me, thinking about a masculine energy is like, I thought that's what I needed, and it wasn't. I needed to work on we call it the inner child. We have to work on our inner child for us to be able to grow in our business, in our life, in our environment. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. It's almost like, and that's a huge revelation to me, because I was like, no, I want to target, I want to get given, I can do this, blah, blah, blah. And if somebody said anything to me about well-being or, the mindset of where I am, no, I can do this. No, I've got this. But actually, that's a pile of crock.
Oh, if I was to almost eh, overarch like what you've just said through
Yeah.
my experience, I think one of the most common things that I see, and I feel this for yourself, is you've got really impact driven confidence. So when you're holding EPOP, when you're going into a room and you're able to hold that, you know that by you doing that, there's a positive impact from it. And that ripple effect, and you're confident in what you know. It's that competence and confidence thing. And you doing your TikToks, you know that if someone watches that you've got that positive reinforcement, that it might just help that one person that's struggling that day. And it's like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. There's evidence. There's kind of the success evidence that's probably driven. And I do find this quite a lot, that people in business or in their careers, no matter what setting, that they can have impact driven confidence, but be the quietest person in the room and have chronic social anxiety, and people cannot comprehend that that's them. And is that fake? And they sort of like, well, is that pretend confidence? Is that, are you faking it till you make it? I'm like, I always say, like, no, that's confidence because you're confident in what you do and the impact that you make. So I really sense that for yourself because you are so impact driven and you make that difference, and it's just fantastic. And I think people who work in like earlier settings and teachers, they want to make a difference. They don't wake up one day and just, what career should I do? Do you know what? I think I might do that. It's like there's something within them that they want to make a difference to a child's life or parent, like whatever that ripple effect is. So yeah, that's kind of how I see that bit. And I myself have done the same thing with business and in life in general, where I thought, well, I need systems, I need strategy, I need operations, I need to know. Duh, 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 duh. And I used to kind of think, am I too soft? Am I too nice? Am I too, and it was always this about being too much in a child.
Yeah.
We would look outside of ourselves to almost be put back together in a strong order. And don't get me wrong, business, of course we need systems and of course we need a strategy. And that is paramount. But who we are, and I probably shared this at the weekend, the saying of we are the heartbeat behind what we do. And I think your listeners will no doubt resonate with that feeling of it isn't just a job. It's part of who you are.
Yeah. I would say you're a stick of rock. And if you cut yourself in half, you've got early years all the way through.
Right. Yes.
That's it. That's who we are.
That's it. Because sometimes it is tough and there's serious challenges, and it can really, especially when it comes to inspections, and it can really put you out of your comfort zone, but you do it. You do it for the greater good, if you like. You do it for the bigger purpose. So that inner child piece, if we were to really touch on that, the way that I see it is every adult is basically a child in like an adult suit.
Yeah.
And those experiences that we had early on in life, and we no doubt talk about this within the earlier setting, but that age 0 to 7, that real primal imprinting age, that creates our map of the world.
Yeah.
That creates our belief system. How, and I know for a lot of women, and the same will be for, there's another side of it for men or however we identify, but for a lot of women, it's the good girl. It's the people pleaser. And then we get rewarded or we get told to be a certain way. And for men in particular, it tends to be man up, stop being a little girl.
Yeah.
And don't even get me with
No, I won't.
the impact of that. That's for another podcast. But we get given this conditioning, the blueprint of how we think we should be. Then throw in experiences where we get knockbacks, where everyone else gets invited to the kids' party, but you don't. And then fast forward 30 odd years, and there's a group that you think you're a part of, and everyone's getting on online or everyone's doing this. And then you see them together and they've all gone out for it, but we didn't get the invite. Instant. We know logically as adults that kind of says more about them. It's all those quotes, and that's the conscious stuff. That's great. There's more about them than it does you, and it's not about you, and you leave them to it. But that inner child, that 6-year-old who overheard their parents saying, well, they should know better not to invite them, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my God, it's the shame, it's the guilt,
Yeah.
it's yes, me. So that's kind of the ripple effect. And I'm a big advocate for, I call it going under the bonnet. It's like going under and allowing ourselves to heal through those things. And it isn't is it as scary as sometimes people think? I'll ask you.
Well, I think I've probably, we've probably had 4 coaches, business coaches, and I've probably had 3 therapists, counselors. And I've tried the therapist counselors, but every time it got to the bit where they said you need to open the box, I was a bit like, I don't want to open the box. I want to bury it at the end of the garden. Remember this saying this to you. And I remember you saying to me, I hear you. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but if you don't open the box, just peel those layers away, just slowly, not all, fully. But if you don't open the box, um, eventually it will manifest in the way that you are. So you have to gradually do it. And that's what I loved about you, is the fact that you didn't put pressure, slowly but surely. And because it's that confidence thing again as well, isn't it? Because then I was like, well, I'm telling you things that I never thought I'd tell anybody. So I actually felt comfortable in that. Is that safe? We said this about safe. I so truly believe that. And actually, what gets me is, if we as practitioners spent time working, especially in the way that we are now, and probably my age, but if we started younger, if we started focusing on what we were and recognizing the inner child and how we've been made, basically, that's what's our experiences. How great would it be the way that we teach children? Oh my God,
That takes my breath away.
that is the golden nugget, because we talk about self-regulation and we talk about children regulating their emotions, but it's too bloody late. Because actually, what happens is, I wish somebody taught me how to regulate my emotions. I wish somebody taught me how to do that breathing. And we've done that breath work, you and I always remember thinking, my gosh, she's going to hypnotize in. I'm just going to look right dork. And oh my God, now I'm like, oh.
Breathe, breathe every day. I'm like,
Uh, but if we don't do that, and I know people will be listening to this and going, this is another thing. God, Vanessa's gone woo woo. And, I said I would never go woo woo. I'm going to put my hand up here. I said, and I have a really good friend, Lucy. She won't be listening to this, but she won't mind. And she's very woo woo. She reminds me of you and very woo woo. And I'm very much that she'll say something and I'll go, Lucy, I actually don't want to give a two hoots about you woo woo. Don't like it. I don't want to be that positive. Go away, back off. And she'd laugh and she'd go, oh, V, I know what you're saying. But eventually, but boy, oh boy, working on that. And it's taken a while for me to actually go, but God, I'm embracing that, for me to actually, and that was the big thing for me. So I'm listening to I think that people listen to this podcast and thinking, Vanessa's gone woo woo. Yes, she has. That's fine. Okay. But I don't sage it, by the way. I do that. What's the wood that I do? What's the wood? And said, I do that. My husband thinks we live in a church. Um, but if we did that, worked on ourselves, then we would be able to do that with the children. So actually, by the time they get to our age, mental health and that would be able to be easily managed, because we've taught that.
100%. I mean, I go as far as, if every person on this planet was to do the inner child work, or at least have that awareness growing up, and our parents have that awareness, and it would change the planet. Wars would be like that kind of impact. And whether it's, I talk about this quite a lot in parenting and conscious parenting, which, let's be honest, teaching early years, that is teaching, that is holding space, that is shaping those beautiful
Yes.
mind and nervous systems. And I always say, and it has the same effect, but conscious parenting, conscious teaching is actually reparenting yourself. Because every time you get triggered, or every time you have to deal with a situation where a kid will not put their shoes on, or will not be kind, or has hit, or has done something, and you have to not have the visceral response, or maybe even have the visceral response that you might have had from parents,
Yeah.
then move through that. That's consciously navigating. And I take my hat off, because it isn't an easy thing. It isn't for the faint-hearted. So working in those sectors, it takes a very, very special kind of person. And that conscious, what I call like that conscious confidence,
Yeah.
it does. And I think the more that we allow ourselves to personally go on a whether you call it a healing journey or a personal development journey, those choices, those triggers lessen and things seem to ease and flow. And that's where we really can get down to the eye level and have, I don't know, that it hits different. It hits
Right.
our nervous system's different and it impacts those around us. And I actually find when people do this work, not only does it impact their work environment, it's that co-regulation. So the workplace, the children, and I've done this long enough to confidently say home life can be impacted as well. Friends, it's like this pebble in the pond effect that can ripple out. It's quite magic, if we can use that word.
Exactly. You are right. You are right. And I'm slightly, um, I feel a different person. I don't know whether you see it in me, but I do feel a different person. I mean, there are still things that you need to do to get over it. And I do think I wish I knew all of this. I wish my parents knew it all
Yes.
before. And that's the bit. But we can change, we can shape our children's future. We did it in ourselves. We did our inner work ourselves. We could change the future of those children that we've got. Um, I can spend hours talking to you, and I'm slightly aware of this time, but if there was something, you are our keynote speaker of EPOP this year. I have to say it this year. I know, my God.
You can say this year now.
Not ready. No, we're not ready. So people who want to come to be able to listen to, there's obviously the EPOP tickets, and there's some less. I mean, we've not relaunched it. If I'm honest, that's something that we need to do. But is there something that you've got a group called Awaken the Warrior? Is that right? Is that an access group that anybody can join? Is that something? If they were if they were listening to this and think, do you know what? I feel like I need to know a little bit more about this lady. Where can they find you?
I would say two places where there's a bit of like binge-worthy 15, 20-minute snippets that I personally just love that can kind of take you further into this. One would be the free Facebook group Awaken the Warrior Within.
Yeah.
And the other one, can I say the podcast?
Go for it. Go for it.
Is the Going Within is the New Going Out podcast.
Oh,
We talk about manifestation, we talk about energetics, we talk about consciously creating, and there's a couple of maybe a little F-bombs in there just to kind of caveat that. But yeah, those would be the two places, and that's on all major platforms. The podcast Going Within is the New Going Out, and my website, Carol-Ann Reid.com.
I've absolutely loved talking to you. You know I do. I actually look forward to our sessions. So I'm a little bit, I know, I probably come away looking worse than I did when I start with you.
Don't look lighter.
A bit
Look
lighter.
lightness.
I wish I got the scales on my lip that I felt lighter at time. Never mind, that would be so much
Oh.
easier.
Well, now.
Yeah, I know. But thank you so much, so much for joining me on the podcast. Any of you who've listening, go and check out Carol-Ann Reid. Go and check out Awaken the Warrior. Go and check out the podcast. I will get Anthony to put it in the show notes as well, so that actually you can access that and go and do a little bit of binge-worthy podcasting. That's what I do. Yeah, I know. And thank you for this weekend. Thank you. Absolutely loved it. It's been brilliant.
Thank you, and I can't wait for when we reconnect again, and we're bringing the EPOP in
I
September.
know. You know, how exciting. I will speak to you really, really soon. Take good care. See you later. Bye.